Hi, my name's Kyle and this is Lauren behind the camera. Thank you very much for joining us and thank you Farming Connect for having us on what would have been Royal Welsh Show Week. We decided we'd do a little video outside because I'm sure what you other Welsh farmers know, the internet isn't great and you're probably pretty bored at, looking at people's studies, so we thought we'd sort of get out and see the pigs. So we run a 20 sow farrow to finish operation in the lovely Brecon Beacons, as you can see. As I'm sure the weather that you've been dealing with, it's not quite the summer we're hoping for, but all good, not too hot for the pigs and lovely to get a bit of rain on the ground to really help the grass grow. We run all of our pigs outside all year round. We farrow out and we finish out. So we moved here in 2014 from London with no previous agricultural experience. We sort of looked at it, from a sort of city thinking way of, having the good life, how we could make a living off the land. We did look at various options and we did run some turkeys in the early years and some meat birds, but we also ran some pigs. Probably decided on pigs because we knew they were relatively easy, for a start off, although there are obviously lots of challenges. We also knew there were lots of added benefits, added value products that you can make out of a pig. And we probably, we're obviously in the heart of sheep country and a bit of cattle, so just looking at doing something different. We got our first 3 pigs in August 2015. And we ran them out with the view to slaughtering them at Christmas time and selling them direct to friends, which we did. We've got a lovely family friend, Andy Oliver, who we gave some of the pork to at Christmas, and everyone was really excited about the pork and said it really tasted great. And they all sort of asked me, what did you do? What did you feed them? What special thing was it? And we were just like, I don't know. We did it pretty normal, and we just literally ran them outside in grass. We actually ran them in the pen just down there, and I think that's when we sort of realised that we were onto something, where you can sort of run pigs outside, they can have a great life, and the result of that is you've got some great tasting meat, which is a real point of difference. And as we found with the markets, it's very difficult to get good quality pork, and there's always, as we've sort of found, there's been a really high demand in that, so it's definitely worked out well. We then sort of slowly built the herd, sorry I can't remember exact numbers, but I think we then sort of finished like 20 or 30 pigs the next year, and like 60 the year after that, 160 the year after that, and now we've got 20 sows and we're finishing about 400 pigs a year. We'd sort of, first of all, we'd just done direct sales, which obviously like the highest return. We sort of found there was obviously a limit to that. There's only so much you can sort of sell, so we looked at selling to restaurants, which is really good in the early days as they take a bit more volume, and there's sort of less processing involved. So we sort of, cut our teeth in that. And then through the years we just looked at other markets. We started selling to butchers. We were doing butchers, restaurants and direct, and just a real mix of markets, which sort of brings us up to where we are now, where we sort of, before all this happened, we're probably selling like a third to restaurants, a third direct, and a third to butchers, which has been really beneficial, which I'll get Lauren to talk about in a minute, about how we've sort of coped with all of these challenges. Quick word from the farming side and how it's affected us corona. In all honesty, not a lot. It's kind of business as normal. The pigs, they haven't really noticed much, although I'm sure they've been really good. I feel like they know something's going on. Everyone's been really good. We had like minor disruptions with feed and meds in the early days. Just got a little bit less feed than we wanted, just due to panic buying, and the meds took a couple of days. But really on the farming side, not a lot has changed. It's business as normal, and just really incredibly grateful that we've still got a job is a plus in this day and age, and just lovely to be able to get out, and work and be outside. One thing that did affect us is we run experience days where people can just come out and just be with the pigs, and we can show them about our farming system. and just basically hang out with these little snuffle puffs, which people really like. And we also run pig keeping courses where, you know, I just sort of teach people about, you know, how to run pigs. And obviously they stopped because of it, so that was a real shame. But we're hoping to sort of start that up again soon. Is that good, you think?
Hi, I'm Lauren, and while Kyle takes care of the majority of the farm work, I take care of the majority of the butchery. We've got our own little butchery here on the farm, which enables us to do all the butchery ourselves. As Kyle mentioned earlier, we decided to have a spread of market, so we started up this venture about 5 years ago, and we decided to spread our markets in order to spread our risk. So we do about a third wholesale, a third to restaurants, and a third to direct. The wholesale market is less work but less profit, and the direct market is more profit but more work, as everything needs to be done into individual portions. We realised at the beginning of the coronavirus crisis that this wasn't just going to be a passing thing, and so we decided to make some changes to our business in order to adapt and cope with that. Of course, all the pork that was going to restaurants, we diverted that into direct sales, but that did mean more work for us. So the way we managed that and managed to keep that a sustainable workload for us is that we reduced the number of lines that we produce. So, for example, we went from 5 flavours of sausages to 3 flavours of sausages, and the really fiddly items, for example, I did diced pork and sliced pork. I got rid of the sliced pork just to do the diced, because we're very aware that people do like that convenience food, things that they can cook very quickly at home. And especially during this time, you know, people are looking, not only do they need to have their 3 meals a day and get their calories, but they're looking for something exciting or something quick and easy. So we found that quite good. So the restaurants would generally take a lot of loins, a lot of bellies, which are really the high value items, along with, pardon me, sausages. And the sausages really helped with my carcass balance. Of course, we're really lucky because the pig is a very versatile animal, so any extra loins and bellies that we had that we couldn't put directly into chops for the direct market, we made into bacon, back bacon and streaky bacon, because we noticed a real uptick in those. We also noticed an increased sale of sausages, and mince, which is traditionally quite a low value item, suddenly went through the roof. There was of course a lot more work involved, and we noticed at the beginning of the crisis that butchers were trying to keep up with demand. We decided, because we're sort of at the top of our workload already, that we weren't going to be able to do that. We weren't going to be able to, for example, cut into next week's pork, as it were. So we decided to remain steady in our market, just keeping to the same amount of pigs per week, being aware that it would be more work because we wouldn't have the primals going to the butchers. I'd say the advantage of being such a small system is that we were able to make decisions on the Monday and implement them on the Tuesday. So that's the advantage to having a very small system where you are in control of every aspect, and you can say, okay, this has stopped, what are we going to do, how are we going to do it, and that worked really well. We did have a few too many chops at the beginning. As I said, we put some of that into bacon. We also did a very slight promotion on loin chops, which really helped. So it's all worked out really well, and it's nice to have that feeling of control. You know, I'm in control of the amount of work I do, which is always lovely. In terms of disruption, we were able to really minimise that, again, by cutting down the amount of lines that we produce, not only are we cutting down on wastage, but we're increasing efficiency on our pork production. We're also really lucky to go to one of the smallest butchers' abattoirs in the country to get our pigs slaughtered, so we were very lucky not to have any disruption on that side of things. And things have gone pretty smoothly. We have noticed some changes in consumer behaviour, which is completely understandable, and again we've been able to week by week adapt to those. So again, for example, having an increase in mince, diced, the convenience food, and having less of the maybe more fancy things. Belly joints are very fashionable, especially at restaurants, but hopefully they'll be able to come back soon. And then I think that's about it from the butchery side. It's all gone very well. We look forward to restaurants coming back, and although we've had very little disruption, it has caused us to change our systems somewhat. So again, little things like the courier not coming into my butchery but me taking it to the fridge van, the courier coming there. But the main changes in the system is the efficiency. So cutting down lines, decreasing waste, increasing efficiency. That's worked really well for us. So I think going forward, we probably wouldn't look to take on any new restaurants, because as I said, the direct sales are more profitable, although they are more work. But we do feel a loyalty to the restaurants that we did supply, so I think we will go back to looking after them, and that's worked really well for us. And I think that's it from the butchery, and we look forward to your questions. Thank you.
Hi, here we are in the farrowing field. Before I talk about how we do farrowing, I'll just do a quick mention of how we do breeding. We do pretty much all natural service. We've got 2 bores. We do occasional AI to just get some new blood into the herd, but for the most part we do natural service. We hand serve all of our sows. For people that don't know what hand serving means, don't worry, it is not involving my hands. But we basically will take a group. We've got 4 groups, sort of 5 to 6 sows. We'll take a group, we'll wean them. Normally if I've got a pen spare somewhere, I'll just chuck them in a pen by themselves, wait for them to come onto heat. And the big factor has just been timing of service. So we wait until they come onto heat, we'll wait until they stand, wait a whole sort of 12 hours or 24 hours to just get them served on the back end of their heat. And then once they're standing, we'll then chuck them up to the boar. And we've got crosses of like large blacks and durocs, so each boar will probably be doing 2 to 3 sows. So we'll chuck in a sow who's ever sort of standing hardest, serve her, give the boar a rest 6, maybe 12 hours, serve the other sow, and then repeat that all again. And that's been a combination of timing the service and general condition of the sows. Has been the sort of 2 biggest factors in just increasing piglet numbers. This year, we tend to sort of wean on average about sort of 10 per sow. This year we're slightly lower at like 9.6. Had a bit of a rough farrowing in February, which I'm sure, well, any farmers out there, it was a tough winter. But we're bouncing back from that, and all the litters have been pretty good from that since. I do really like data, so don't worry, I will have lots of data written down if people want to get, data heavy in the question and answers. So that's how they're served. We don't actually normally farrow in this pen. This pen is for dry sows. That we actually bring the sows in sort of 3 to 4 weeks before they farrow and really just increase their feed quite a bit. 8% of the piglets' growth is in that last 3 to 4 weeks. So we found that has been really good, and it really minimises, unviable piglets out. So that's been a real benefit. But we brought the sows in here. We just wanted to sort of take down the grass, which I'll talk a little bit more about later. But we just wanted them to take down the grass, which they're doing a reasonable job of. And then we'll sow some of our sort of special grasses and stuff. But we've basically got 2 pens, 1 pen over here, 1 pen over here, that are about an acre and a half a piece, acre and a bit, and we've got groups of, again I know this isn't, I've got a slightly split group of a 3 and a 3 because they're about a week out, but we'll normally run groups of sort of 5 sows. We group farrow and group lactate, so instead of having them penned up individually, we'll just chuck a group of sows in about a week before into their farrowing fields, get them all settled in, and then we tend to just leave them alone. The benefits are that the sows always stay in the same group, so there's a reduction in mixing, so they sort of know each other. Also very beneficial for these little piglets, because the piglets just get to know each other and there's less fighting, you know, and obviously we're not having to mix piglets at weaning, so it's really beneficial for that. There is, you know, obviously, you know, there's always negatives to any type of system. We can sometimes struggle if there's a sow that needs more food. It's difficult to get more food to her. But like if you look at the sows here, Crystal over there, you know, is a bit under condition, but we'll really pound the food in there, you know, and get a bit. And it's not, you know, it's not bad, but there are, you know, sort of negatives obviously to any system. We don't really have too much cross suckling. Very occasionally happens. But we're sort of ready for that with fenders and doors, etc. So that would be my only sort of recommendation if you are doing group farrowing, is just to be ready for that. We find as well the sows will probably bunch up after about 2 weeks. You'll probably have 2 sows sleeping in an ark, or you know, sometimes despite the fact that I've got 5 lovely arks in there that are all strawed up, you know, an incredible amount of sows and piglets will decide to go in one ark. But all, you know, all very beneficial. I'll sort of move on to weaning a bit, but we generally will try and leave the piglets wherever they farrowed for like a week or so. Just really high stress time for the piglets, you know, really important for them to just get as much feed in them and as much water in them, so it's very helpful for them to be in the same pen where they know the feed and water is. We'll also introduce creep very early on at about sort of 2 weeks, which has been really beneficial, so they can just, you know, they can just get used to the hard food very quickly, and then by the time they're weaning, they're fully on hard food and we have very little problems. Hi, so we're here in Weaner World. It's called Weaner World because might as well call it Weaner World because it's hilarious. So annoyingly, I've just moved a group of pigs out here, so we've got no pigs in here, but we'll just have, you know, a quick look. We've got basically this paddock, and we've got another paddock next door. It's probably like maybe 2 acres, maybe an acre and a half in total, that we've split in half. What I quite like about Weaner World, we'll sort of talk about grasses in a minute, but they're really, when they're that small, we'll run pigs when they're sort of 6 to 9 weeks in here, and then we'll flip them to over there, so they're going 9 weeks to 12 weeks. When they're small, you know, they're doing a bit of rooting, but they're really not rooting all that much as a sow would or a bigger pig, so it's quite good to give them an environment that's sort of appropriate for them, and it just means that, you know, it doesn't really destroy the grass as much, so we found that really beneficial, and it's definitely a benefit. So we sow some sort of special grasses. I'm really not a grass expert, very much a dude with a bucket, so I don't know an awful bunch, but you know, slowly figuring it out. So we have a couple of different mixes. We have like some meadow fescues that are like harder wearing grasses, that will use those more on the sows and the older pigs, again matching that sort of land, your type of pig. But in Weaner World we can sort of pretty much do lightweight grasses. You know, I'm just starting to experiment with some of the mixes, but we've got a bunch of clover in here, we've got some cocksfoot. I think the key when I was looking at it was to have deep rooting grasses. So we found all the grasses that we've put on have come back so much quicker. I feel really bad that there'll probably be a lot of people that know a lot about grass, and I know not that much. But I don't know whether that's a benefit in that we've put down some new seed, you know, on essentially a hill farm grass that hasn't been changed for years, or there's an extra bit of fertility. But we found, all the stuff that we plant up just comes back super quickly, and we rotate all of our pigs so it's got a time, time to rest, sort of thing. But we're just experimenting with what sort of mixes work. But it is lovely in Weaner World that we've got, that we can do some stuff that might get damaged a bit more by older pigs, and we just, let it come back. What's also really nice, and we'll sort of touch on this a bit later in finishing, is we're all surrounded by trees here on the sides and the end of the paddocks. And this is probably, I really like running pigs in woodland. Obviously, it's their natural environment, and we get a lot of food off of nuts and stuff. But having the benefit of having grass and woodland really seems to be ideal. Woodland, from a food point of view, you're only really producing nuts from July up to Christmas. But grass can be, for the most part, all year round. Obviously, January to March there's less grass, but it's amazing to see pigs. They'll often sleep in the woods. We have we have practically no heat stress issues, just due to having trees. So they'll often go and sleep in the woods when it's really hot, and it just cools them down. So just really an ideal pen.
3.
So here we've got the group of weaners that came from Weaner World. They're about sort of 13, 14 weeks old. We have 2 different diets. We've got a grower diet, which is essentially a commercial finisher diet, and a finisher diet, which is basically a sow lactation diet that we finish to all. The grower diet, really key to get your diet right with pigs. The grower diet has got enough energy and protein in it. It's just really trying to get as much feed into them in those early days, and just sort of not limit their growth at all. And that's what I really recommend, is just get all your feeding right up until 12 weeks. You've got a lot better pigs to sort of work with then. I just thought I'd show you, these pens are a bit small to the number of pigs that we now run and what we sort of do. And I'm on the cusp of changing them, although I really like them. We've got basically 4 pens that are about a quarter of an acre each, I think. And it actually, despite having a large number in, it actually works out quite well. We kind of basically mob graze it. So we're rotating pigs sort of pretty much every 2 weeks. So we'll just run them in one pen, let them take down the grass, give it a rest, and like that's a pen. They didn't really take it down, but there was pigs on that pen 2 weeks ago, and look at the grass coming back. So really good to rotate it and just let that grass come back up for them. We are obviously feeding a pig feed as well. I view grass as it's a bit of a Brucey bonus. It's very good for their welfare. I'm sure there's lots of nutrients in it and stuff, and I think it affects potentially affects how the meat tastes, but more importantly, it's kind of good for the land and just good for the pigs. It's amazing to see, little 6 weeks old weaned pigs that essentially, I don't think they'll be making that much gains off of the grass, but they love it. They're eating it, it gives them extra fibre, it's really beneficial from them. So we'll split these in a couple of days or so. We wean at 6 weeks. We'll sort of split at 12 to 14 weeks, split them into boys and girls. Quite good to feed them differently as well. Obviously, as you probably know, girls will put on a bit more fat, boys will be leaner, so we can feed, appropriate to that pig. We're slaughtering basically 7 pigs a week, 14 every 2 weeks. And I'm sort of now, as much as it's nicer to run bigger groups of pigs, from a management point of view, we're now sort of running groups of 14. So we'll basically split these off into groups of 14, that's the slaughter group. And just a smaller group, we'll sort of, not weigh them, but we'll split out the bigger ones and the smaller ones into their groups, and I think it's just better, you get a lot less of a spread. We are sort of finishing between sort of 5.5 months, 6 months, 6.5 months, to sort of get a 60 kilo, well a bit more than that really, sort of 65 kilo carcass out of it, which sort of works quite well for our type of markets. And that's about it on the finishing side.
Okay, so yeah, thank you very much, Kyle and Lauren, for preparing that video for us. Very interesting and yeah, very inspiring, really, to see how you've moved to Wales, how you've diversified and yeah, adapted to the recent change that we've just had now. And as you mentioned as well, Kyle, it's nice to see someone out in the field rather than see someone study as well. So yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, so we'll open the floor to questions now. We've had a couple come in, but yeah, before we'll answer them, I'd like to just quickly pass you over to Mel Cargill, Mentor Moch Cymru project manager, who will give us a quick update now of the services that they have available. And perhaps you can mention as well how you've worked with Coalpit Farm in the past on yeah, how you've worked with Kyle and Lauren. Mel, so yeah, over to you. Thank you.
Brilliant, thank you very much, David. And also great to see Kyle and Lauren and their pigs in their farm. We've been working with them both for a few years now, so it's amazing and brilliant and really inspiring to see how their business and their herd have developed over that time. So yeah, so I'm just going to give you a real quick overview of Meddwl Moch Cymru. Meddwl Moch Cymru is a project funded by Welsh Government with the aim of supporting and developing the pig sector in Wales. And we do that in a number of ways. We work with the whole sector. We work with producers of any size, of any breed, of any production system. And we work all the way through the supply chain to the end consumer as well. So our activity is very broad and varied in its nature. And today I'm just going to really quickly run through some of the support that we're currently offering that may be of interest to you. I will say further information on everything that I cover is available on the Meddwl Moch Cymru website, which is www.meddwlmochcymru.co.uk. But also, please contact us directly, and we'd love to speak to you on a one-to-one basis as well. So yeah, so a lot of our work is around upskilling and providing support to producers. And so we do a lot of training sessions, and that can vary in nature from anything from looking at feed and nutrition through to AI, through to butchery, and everything in between. Our training sessions have changed more recently. We've had to adapt, and they are now more webinar based for the foreseeable future. We also have practical workshops, nothing planned at the moment, but we are registering interest for practical workshops such as butchery, charcuterie, processing, and also AI. So if that is of interest to anybody, we'd encourage you to contact us to register your interest beforehand. We also have funding towards herd health plans. So there's 80% funding for an initial herd health plan. And that's an independent sort of bespoke herd health plan by a vet who comes and does an assessment of the herd health status of your herd. And they work with you then to develop a way of maintaining that or improving that. So it's a real important piece of kit for any pig keeper. And there's funding towards that, 80% in the first year, and then at a reduced rate then for its review for 2 more years. We also create and establish producer groups where we identify enough businesses in an area that would like to work together and have similar issues or problems that they'd like to overcome collectively. As I said, we work with the whole sector, so we also do a lot of market development activity. We've recently launched the funding for businesses in Wales where they can access up to £500 worth of a designer's time to help them produce their own bespoke branding materials. There's been a lot of changes with COVID, and a lot of businesses like Coalpit that have perhaps had to adapt and change their business model, and who are selling more direct to the consumer these days. So this funding is available to try and develop professional looking marketing materials, whether that's flyers, digital graphics for your website or online advertising. It could be a banner, it can be anything. that you feel will help you promote and market yourself more effectively to your target audience. We also have more general point of sale materials, so recipe cards and posters to help raise awareness of pork produce in Wales, and it's a nice tool for you to use to try and give your customers some recipe inspiration. So they've been really popular, and we'll be launching the summer point of sale kits and recipe cards shortly, so get in touch if you'd like to receive any of those. Also with marketing, we can provide ideas and advice and references for those looking at accessing new markets and looking at different routes to market. So there's that sort of support available as well. Study tours, nothing planned at present. In the past, we've held study tours to Cornwall. I know Kyle attended a past study tour with us, looking at their sector and how are there any lessons that we can learn from their pig sector and bring it to Wales. And we've had other study tours as well. We also have a lot of resources online. If you've not visited the Mental Moch Cymru website yet, I'd encourage you to do so. We've established a resource hub, and there's a wealth of information there. There's fact sheets, there's a monthly technical article, there's all the recordings from our previous webinars as well. There's lists of farm materials, free signs, breeding booklets, etc. So there's a wealth of information there, and just available on the website for everybody. And finally, we also provide support for new entrants coming into the sector. Again, they can access all of our training, all of our resources, but we also do collaborate with Wales YFC as well to try and encourage the next generation of pig keepers in Wales. So that's a really short and brief overview of some of the activity and support that's available to you. As I said, there's more information on our website, or please do get in touch with us directly and we'll see how we can help you best. So thank you very much.
Okay, great. Diolch yn fawr, Mel. Thank you very much, Mel. If anyone has any questions for Mel, yeah, feel free to ask them via the Q&A icon on the bottom of your screen. So yeah, Kyle and Lauren, yeah, we've had a few questions come in. So the first question, Lauren, how did Lauren learn to butcher? Was it through Mental Moch Cymru, or how did you yeah, go about it?
Hi, so thanks Rosie for your question. So I did a one-day course at Maynard's in Shrewsbury where I learned a little bit about processing bacon, and then I did a heavily subsidised course through Mental Moch. So the first day was learning about fresh pork and how to cut that up. I think you saw a little picture of it in Mel's presentation there. And then the second day was how to do sausages and bacon. So that was really useful. And then, of course, we read books, we looked on YouTube. That was really helpful. But really getting to do it, getting that hands-on teaching with people who know what they're doing, at Horab that was really useful through Mental Moch. And the fact that it was, if it wasn't free, it was practically free. And after that, it was just practice, just keep on butchering till I got better. And then I'd say around 6 months ago, Mental Moch provided me with a food technologist called Pam, who came here into my butchery, and I went through all the different cuts that I do and how I do it. And Pam gave me great advice, you know, on how to improve products, what was great, what could be improved a little bit. And so that was really useful. So I'd say the best thing to do would be to get in contact with Mel and Mental Moch. And hopefully once these things pass, hopefully they'll be able to set up another couple of butchery days.
Okay, thank you. Hopefully that's answered your question, Rosie. There's another question just coming now. Lauren and Kyle, if you were looking to farm on a small scale level, what size herd would you say is needed to have a regular profit?
Oh, that's a good question. So we sort of just an overview of what. So we're doing we got 20 sows and we finish about 400 pigs a year. Real mix of markets, and that's enough of a living for myself and Lauren. If I was just to do wholesale and get a low return, that could probably just be a living for one person. Depends where your market is. Obviously, as Lauren sort of said, if you're doing stuff more direct, you're getting a more return on it. So, if you're doing high value products, bacon, sausage, direct, you could probably get away with just having sort of 10 sows finishing, 200. So I'd really, if anyone's sort of looking at this, I would really work backwards, be completely on top of your costings, and work out how much you're going to need to sort of make a living from, and work backwards from them. But I'd sort of, if you're sort of finishing and doing direct, you could probably get away with just sort of doing 10 sows, but just really do your costings.
Yeah. And how do you market your produce? Is it just your website, or how do you get your produce out there? And maybe how do you approach restaurants? Do you approach them, or do they approach you, or how does that work?
So a mixture. So I'm just trying to think of where we start. So first of all, it was like word of mouth with friends and stuff, and that was really good. And then the big, oh God, I can't believe I haven't mentioned this. Of course, but is Instagram. Instagram has just been amazing. Probably, all of the wholesales that we work with found us through Instagrams. Like one of the fanciest butchers in London, found us from Instagram. A lot of the restaurants found us through Instagram. It's kind of funny because I was into it a bit when I was in London, but my initial thing was, hey man, let's get out to the countryside and forget about the socials, and I don't want to do that. And then I've kind of got here and I'm like, they're more important than anything. So I'd really recommend just get your story out there, do the content. But I think Instagram is just so good for farming and food. So I'd say that was probably the main way for chefs and stuff.
Why pigs? Why not more maybe traditional animals such as maybe sheep or cattle here in Wales? What made you start pig fat? Keep pigs?
I think I was sort of big into curing and smoking, so I knew there was a lot of added value products. Do something a bit different. I think we sort of definitely found really early on, it was such, now obviously I just love pigs. But it was such a light bulb moment when I realized I could run them out, they could have a great life, and from that we just get a great product. What I'd really recommend to everyone, and sort of hopefully we do sort of inspire people, is there's such a small market to get good quality pork. It is just absolutely minute. Like we could easily sell 4 times the amount that we produce, in a heartbeat. And butchers and restaurants out there are really looking for that product. And I think really also as well, it's really rare that someone can buy a pig from someone, from a producer that's farrowed, seen that pig through the whole process. It's incredibly rare to have that connection through. So that's really really important, and a big, which always surprised me. I always thought people would just be on taste, taste and value and welfare. But no, a big part of it is people love buying it from someone that's rearing it and really like that.
Yeah. And what's the plan for the coming years? Are you thinking of keeping more pigs, perhaps, or do you think that you've got enough now for a while? What's the plan for the future?
No, that is a good question. I'm endlessly on the cusp. Like half of me, I think we probably will expand a little bit. And we potentially got an interesting project coming up. I think what's really key is just keep the quality there. You do get excited at points and go, oh God, we could sell way more. Or you know what, I bet I could squeeze in a bit more, get a bit of tent, get a bit of barn. But I'd really recommend, to sort of anyone out there, figure out what you do and do that well and stick to that. And, our main thing is quality. So we really, we really just focus on that. So hopefully expand.
Oh God. Another question that's just come in now. Did you look into costs to have it butchered and packed for you, or was the plan from the set itself to butcher and pack the meat itself?
Yes, so initially we didn't have a cutting room or a butchery, and we got the guys at our abattoir to butcher it for us, and they did a good job. But we wanted such specific cuts and this amount of this, you know, that amount of that. So we thought the way we can have the most amount of control over it is to make our own cutting room. So we converted an old outbuilding, an old garage, and got lots of secondhand equipment. And so, yes, it is, you know, there was setup costs involved, but because we're doing a premium high quality product, we wanted to have that control throughout the process, you know, everything from rearing the piglets to sending out the boxes direct to customers. Yeah.
Yeah. Have your costings gone up during, since the beginning of the lockdown due to maybe selling more meat boxes rather than selling bulks?
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. So a whole loin, I wouldn't need much to package that to send it to a restaurant. But if I'm getting, you know, 25 chops out of a loin, that's 25 little bags that I need, and 25 stickers then that I need to put on it. The same with the ice packs and the boxes, you know. So it is that thing, the more you produce, then the more your costs go up, of course. Yeah.
And we do make, we will make more returns off of the direct. You have, again, be on top of your costings. But it is our second, apart from feed, it's our second biggest cost is packaging.
Mm-hmm.
It's astounding how much packaging.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a question for you here as well, Mel. Follow-on question from the one that we had earlier regarding regarding the scale of the herd size. So, is there a size minimum needed to get funding support to start up?
So pretty much everything we provide, there isn't a minimum size really. So all the training is available and accessible to everyone. The £500 towards marketing is available as well. There's the only scheme that there is a minimum size is the herd health plan, that 80% funding for that. But again, that's still accessible to the majority of the holdings in Wales. So it would be the equivalent of finishing, say, 75 pigs a year, or having 5 to 6 sows and a boar. So it's still quite accessible, but everything else that we provide, there isn't a minimum size requirement, so it's available for all.
Okay, thank you. I'm minded to wrap things up following one more question, as we are running out of time. So, one last question. Do you send your meat out in packaging like wool, cool? Would it be fresh or frozen?
Yes, so we do use products like wool cool. There's always something called puffin, which is very slightly cheaper. But you know, they're both the same thing. They're both really good, made out of recycled lamb's wool. And then we put ice packs in with that, good for 48 hours. And then most of it I do fresh. Sausages I send out frozen, just so they don't get squashed really. Yep, and that's about it.
Okay, thank you. And sorry, one more question that's just come in now, actually. Do Lauren and Kyle have bluebells, and do the pigs destroy the bluebells?
Yeah, we have got bluebells. What's been really interesting is we've got a whole fern, what was a fern field and loads of woods, and it didn't have any bluebells when we first got here. We ran the pigs over the fern, and they sort of took down all the fern. And as soon as they had taken down all the fern, there were loads of bulbs underneath. And then now that's a field of bluebells, which I do think they do eat them, but they come back in spring. So it was, obviously, a whole nother conversation, but it was really interesting to see that although the pigs are taking it down, there's a bit of that disruption, and they're taking down the ferns, and there's definitely some interesting bulbs and stuff that were under there that probably never got a chance to come up.
Okay, thank you. That's it. So just quickly before I wrap things up, I'd like to just draw your attention once again to the Royal Welsh programme that Family Connect have put together yeah, please visit our website for more information or to book a place in any of the upcoming webinars. There's one webinar tonight that's going to be looking at the health and happiness of your pigs, and that's with a pig vet specialist and Bob Stevenson. It's from 8 o'clock until 9. So to book your place to that or to any of the other upcoming webinars, please visit the Farming Connect website or get in touch with me. Also, when this meeting comes to an end, the evaluation sheets will come up on the screen, and I'd be really grateful if you can all fill the evaluation form in. It's really important for us moving on, yeah, and to improve our services. So yeah, thank you. So yeah, so thank you very much again, Kyle, Lauren, and Mel, and yeah, thank you all for joining. So yeah, thank you very much. Diolch yn fawr i chi gyd am ymuno. Yeah, take care. Good night. Thank you. Good night. Good afternoon even. Thank you.